Jeep's on fire.
Acetone.
So as far as the Jeep when it came into the shop, Jeep JKU came into the shop, and by the time I got my hands on it, it was already stripped down by the fellas. So they gave us a huge head start. Most of the parts were already here for Motobilt. Yeah, I had the instructions in email form, and I always like to be able to reference paper if at all possible. It's a little easier to reference. I made a book, you know, the book of knowledge.
Here at RockstarGarage, we're gonna cut this Jeep in half.
So when we got most of the parts, it made sense to start at the foundation, so to speak. So that would be the frame, and then the frame's gonna lay out where the suspension goes. We got right into it with the back half frame chop. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't have this massive piece of frame that was going to get cut off and then fall and smash someone's toe. So I thought it'd be the best idea to cut the frame in sections so that it was more manageable to disassemble.
And then cut that guy. Oh, that was awkward.
Okay, so the Motobilt frame section gets attached essentially just under the back door. So in between the B and C pillar at the frame rail, there's some landing marks that are pretty clearly identifiable, left to right, where you need to cut.
Look at that, dude. All right.
A lot of these parts have been here in the shop for a while, as this build has fallen in line with the production schedule and events and things like that that happen here.
Oh no, dude!
More powder coated pieces?
More powder coated parts.
In an effort to move forward, the team here had multiple parts sent out to powder coat beforehand. However, some of the parts that needed prepped and welded were powder coated.
Just anytime you're welding, you want a clean surface, free from any contaminants, paint, rust, oil. No harm, no foul, but it'll be a little more time consuming.
So that did present a little bit of a challenge. We actually contacted a local powder coater, asked them what was the best way to remove that. They actually recommended that we heat the paint, the powder coat, with a torch, and then once it becomes hot, it's easier to basically wire wheel off. So yes, that 100% did make things difficult, and I always do try and prep the material better, because in a certain sense, welding, especially in a motorsports aspect, is kind of like painting, where the prep and the fitment and the gap with a clamp, making sure things don't move, it results in a better weld and a stronger weld and a more visually appeasing weld.
This one was finer. I think that one will probably do it.
Yeah.
It did work out with the torch, so that's a good tip. When it comes to a lot of these mounts and brackets and things like that, sometimes they need assembled, tacked together, prepped, installed multiple times on and off to ensure that the fitment is correct and the things are aligned, and ultimately it has to conform to what you can't change. We know that the body mount females on the actual body, the cab, so to speak, the Jeep tub, they're not going to move. So we can assemble what we need to assemble, but if it doesn't bolt on the Jeep and have tolerances that are weldable, then it's useless to us. So it did take a couple of times to be able to assemble all the parts after we were able to locate them, and then make sure that everything lined up with the body mounts on the Jeep. That falls into the body mounts that are basically below the C-pillar, and then there's also a body mount back towards the tailgate you have to make sure that all those body mount holes are going to line up. With the back half frame kit, there's some pieces that get lined up, but they don't key together.
They look like they're bent in the picture though, but maybe that's just...
I think it's just the angle like that.
It's the right part number though?
Yeah.
We don't have a fixture or jig, so it makes it a little bit challenging to get them right. But what we found was that if I had enough blocks and clamps on the table and all of the edges lined up and it made sense, it actually went on the Jeep and appears to be correct. So you just got to kind of trust the process more than anything else and know that there is an engineer there that's trying to do everything he can to make it user-friendly and functional. It makes it nice that the Motobilt parts, they are numbered appropriately and they do go together pretty much the way the instructions say. So the cross member in the rear did have a little bit of an issue, and it's just clearancing, but there are large washers. It's like a big 3/16 washer that goes underneath. And with the new cross member, they didn't quite fit in.
Did they drop in? Oh, come on.
However, they don't need to quite be as big as they actually are. So we just did a little clearancing on the outside to make sure that they were able to move through the opening.
I don't know about perfecto, but they go in now.
There's a whole bunch of techniques that can come into play when you're getting parts to line up and clamped into place and be true. And we did have a little bit of a toe on the new frame rail sections, and they need to be straight and true.
Yeah, it's definitely weldable. It's not the end of the world. It just, I want to get the gap as good as I can. Okay. If we can put a screwdriver in it, I'm happy with that alignment. Let's take this one down. We'll mock it the other way, the same way. Make sure that it looks good. And then we'll put it back on and do it. It doesn't feel like it's moving. No. Are we caught on something?
Yeah, your screwdriver in your alignment.
Oh, dude.
My bad. There you go. Sorry, man.
The guy with the angle.
That's right.
Okay. There you go.
Oh, just like that, boys.
We were able to get the frame rails parallel and upright, and then that also improved the gap for the cross member and getting everything lined up. So we did a series of clamping and ratchet strapping to be able to suck those in. Once it's assembled, it gives you more clearance for up travel of the rear axle, and it also brings the frame rails tapered inward.
Whoa! Jeep's on fire. Acetone.
And it allows you more room for the what's now going to be a coilover and a bypass shock that's replacing a traditional spring and coil that would be inboard of the frame rail. Now we have nice suspension components that'll be outboard of the frame rail. Because they're outboard of the frame rail, we have more clearance for them so that when you get axle articulation back and forth, you have no rub, no clearance issues because you have so much more space now. Concerning the front cross member, the other stuff has to be removed. There was a stock cross member in there that needed to be removed. The new cross member bolts to the ears that come off of the inside of the frame rails so that the new cross member can function in the way that it is. There's definitely some challenges in there with welding. Installing the front cross member was a little bit of a challenge. There's still a little bit more work up there to do once we have a little bit more room, but they are in there nice for now and we'll be able to move forward with progression.
We are making wins, dude. Good Lord. Boom, what's up? You should be good. I can see all the way through them.
The front and the rear do get tied in with a pretty substantial skid plate on the bottom. And this is for sure one of those processes where it is more advantageous to have a lift because things get installed and then removed and then installed and then removed because we're looking for fitment. It's a little bit of a dance as far as measuring, prepping, welding, installation, and then making sure that everything works together. So once we knew that the rear frame section was installed and then we had the front cross member installed, we knew that the bottom skid plate needs lined up, but there is a cross member for the rear that also serves as strength for the frame, but it also has the rear suspension pivots. So it's a joint that's incorporated into what looks like an upside down W. It's high clearance, almost all the way against the pan of the belly of the Jeep. There's a ton of welding that needs to be done in there, so any prep or tack welding you can accomplish beforehand. But it also is a system where it gets located off of landmarks that are designated in the instructions.
This. There. That's nice because now we know that this whole thing's gonna bolt right up.
Yep. Just a little haircut, you know. Here we go.
It does say in the Motobilt kit that this can be installed without ever removing the body from the frame. Somebody can accomplish that, but I can't. So I needed to make sure that it was installed appropriately and fully welded. So we did actually go through the process of slightly separating the body from the frame. We have the advantage in a shop like this to use a hydraulic lift in conjunction with some jack stands, so that we just undid the body mounts. We were able to kick up the rear a little bit more than the front because obviously there's many more components towards the front of the vehicle that don't want to be disturbed. So we were able to attain, I don't know, 5-6 inches on the back of the vehicle, and that allowed me to be able to get in there and make sure that the welds all the way around the frame rail sections that have been slid into place were all done. There's also some slot welds and some rosette features that need to get completed. So we did everything we could to get in there and weld them. We ground most of that flush and smooth so that once there's a coat of flat black on this thing underneath, everything will blend in nicely. As far as where the build's at right now, we made a huge amount of progress up front. Things got established as far as that foundation I was talking about, where the frame and the suspension mounting points are making sense. So now it's time to pump the brakes a little bit and transition to the next step as far as what makes sense, which is the roll cage. So a little bit of groundwork has to be established there with landing brackets where the cage mounts, but we'll get into that in a future episode.
Got it.
Oh, you should have tossed it. Just nail Andy's Jeep, dude.
Right into Andy's hood.
Into the hood? Hit that trash can, dude. Get in that trash can.
That trash can right there?
Get in that trash can, dude.
Watch this, ready? In, dude. That's in.